At a town hall meeting at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire, Manchin, a West Virginia Democrat, and Jon Huntsman, a former Utah Republican governor, made their pitch for No Labels, a bipartisan group trying to move the nation beyond its partisan gridlock.
They're just trying to move the nation beyond the partisan gridlock, everyone. That's what CNN wants you to know about No Labels. Except that's not the whole story. The reality is that No Labels is a dark money group funded by corporations and billionaires in favor of the status quo. And Joe Manchin, the conservative Democratic senator, might be running for president on their ticket. At least he won't rule it out. And you're about to hear from him in the next video. Let's watch.
Let's see what happens. It's too early. Everyone thinks we need to do something.
I'm pressing on this because if you do get in the race and you spoil the election, would that factor into?
I've never been in any race I've ever spoiled. I've been in races to win, and if I get in a race, I'm going to win. So, with that being said, I haven't made a decision, and I'm not going to. I've never made a decision.
Now he went on to say, "quote I'm not here running for president tonight. I'm not. I'm here trying to basically save the nation." The guy who served as a major obstacle to Joe Biden's entire agenda is here to save the nation, everyone. I've got a lot more to get to, including who actually funds No Labels, and we'll talk about our theories on what's really transpiring here. But Cenk, I'm curious what you think about all this.
Okay, so I think that everything he's saying is a lie, and I'm going to prove it to you. And I think these are some of the worst people involved in politics. But there could be a silver lining here. There could be one positive thing that comes out of this. I'll get to that in a second. But it's interesting that there are now several different corporate groups trying to take over the government, and the different corporate interests have started to fight against each other. So Third Way is a corporate group, they're on the Democratic side, but they're fighting against No Labels, which is another corporate group. And then the Heritage Foundation, another corporate group, is on Trump's side. And now the corporations have started to fight against each other because they realize the American people are helpless. And mainstream media lies on our behalf 24/7, and so does right-wing media. So let's just fight against each other and see who can win. So these guys are the most corporate out of all the groups. They're the biggest liars out of all the groups. So when he says, "Oh, we're against partisan gridlock," dude, you created partisan gridlock. You're the #1 advocate for the filibuster, which is the #1 reason we have partisan gridlock.
Exactly.
Oh my God, what a colossal liar Joe Manchin is. Have you ever seen anyone in mainstream media call him a liar when he lies 24/7? It's unbelievable.
Well, you're about to hear more lies, but before we get to those lies, I do want to just give you a statement from the former North Carolina governor, Pat McCrory, who is involved with No Labels. When asked whether they plan on, running a ticket in the 2024 presidential election, he said he hopes it won't be necessary, but that if by Super Tuesday we see the final two candidates as Trump and Biden, we will present a president and vice president if we see we have an opportunity to win. Now, let's get back to that town hall. Manchin in that town hall continued to lie, and he said that he lied. And in his statement had the audacity to claim that he's very concerned about corruption and money in politics. You're gonna love this, Cenk. Let's watch.
It is time to speak up and basically make sure that we're held accountable and responsible. I can assure you, both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have benefited greatly by the dark money. And everybody's talking about dark money.
Well, they're also talking about whether or not, specifically with money, should groups like No Labels have to be transparent about where that money's coming from?
I would think the Democratic Party and Republican Party should be transparent. They got $1.7 billion in the 2020 election. $1.5 billion for the Republicans. That's over $3 billion of dark money nobody knows anything about. Nobody knows anything about. So I can tell you, if you want to change Citizens United, it can only happen in Washington. Both parties are going to have to pass a legislation that basically outlaws Citizens United. I can speak and I can tell for No Labels that they would change Citizens United overnight if you could. But that only happens in Washington. So I'll be one vote. I would vote to overturn Citizens United and make it the law of the land that you cannot have dark money in politics.
So Jon Huntsman, who's sitting next to him in that panel, went on to say that he's also concerned about the fact that No Labels is not, open about the dark money donors. But don't worry, John, don't worry. I'm here to help because, just back in June, Mother Jones actually put out a report where they listed 36 wealthy donors and corporate high rollers who wrote pretty big checks to support No Labels just last year. The roster includes past and present chief executives of major companies, including Lowe's Corporation, a vast conglomerate, of course. You have Fleur, an engineering and construction giant, Abry Partners, a private equity firm, SailPoint, a tech firm, and Fortress Investment Group.
God, I don't know where the money came from. I hear the American people want it. We're just going for the moderates in America. Oh, golly geez, all of our funding from corporations? Oh my God, look, our entire career, McCrory, Huntsman, Manchin, Joe Lieberman, we've always voted 100% in favor of our corporate donors. That was just a coincidence though, was it?
What's really interesting about the language that No Labels is using to sell what they're doing to the American public is that they have co-opted the populist rhetoric that we see on the ground.
100%.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So number one, he says he's against Citizens United, against dark money. As Anna just showed you, the group is made up entirely of dark money. But in Manchin's career, he's patient zero of dark money. He's patient zero of corruption. No one gets bribed more than Joe Manchin. So, and then he comes out, he's so brazen. And he's, oh yeah, I'm against Citizens United and dark money. Then why don't you stop taking it?
Totally.
Okay, so no guys, the reason he is enabled and feels like he can lie to you that brazenly is because the mainstream media never, ever challenges him. And when they do, by the way, well, first of all, they don't. Like there was this one brief period where the New York Times was like, he actually takes some money from donors. And why did they do that? Because the other corporatist, Joe Biden, said, we are now opposed to Manchin for a minute and a half, right? And that's the only time they ever said anything at the New York Times. Oh, I'm sorry, take all the dark money and stuff it into your pockets. They say, oh, dark money, theoretically bad, but whenever they're voting on legislation, they're like, oh, that doesn't affect the legislation at all.
Totally.
Come on, you guys are jokes. You're total and utter jokes. Go become plumbers. Anyway, so this guy, his number one trick is to call himself a moderate. Now, for example, he votes against legislation that would bring you paid family leave. Paid family leave polls at 84%. Being opposed to it means you're in the 16%, which is the radical position. Totally, utterly radical, right? But what does mainstream media call him? And every one of you in the audience knows this. Every single time they call him a moderate.
They do, yep.
They lie on his behalf, and they do it every time. So he's used to the media lying for him. So he's like, oh, apparently there are no rules. I'll tell them I'm against dark money, even though my career is built on dark money. And these dogs in the media who are just corporate marketers will come out here and tell them, oh, I'm the moderate and I'm against corruption. They lie on my behalf 24/7. So that's why he does this.
Manchin and Sinema themselves have received campaign contributions from at least 13 billionaires who had also donated money to Trump's campaign.
These guys are a joke.
They're absolute liars.
And I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, Anna. I'm interrupting and I'm going on my usual rant.
On a media rant?
Yeah.
Have at it.
The New York Times, NPR, MSNBC, CNN. Are you ever going to tell the truth?
They're not, Cenk.
Okay, they're not. All right. So as long as we know everyone in mainstream media are gigantic liars, moderate. Medicare for all polls at 70%. 30% is the radical position. They're like, no, Manchin's a moderate for opposing it. Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi are moderates for opposing a position that 70% of Americans want. And I could list you 24 at a minimum other bills that are incredibly popular. And when these incredibly corrupt people go to kill it because their pockets are stuffed with corporate bribes, mainstream media, New York Times, like, bribes, campaign contributions, affecting legislation, no way. They killed it because they're moderates.
To be more clear though, I think the way that they mislead the public is even more nefarious because they don't just print lies. What they do is they omit important context and important details. So you can't really point to, oh, look, here's a sentence in the reporting that is a clear lie. It's what they don't report. It's the context they don't provide that I think leaves the public, I think misinformed or lacking the information necessary to understand why the system is working the way it is or what the motivating factors are for these politicians and the actions they take or don't take. And to go back to the point that I made about the rhetoric being co-opted by no labels, I think this next video is a perfect example of that. It has to do with the status quo, if you will. Let's watch.
I think that part of what we've done is because we've actually begun to do this, and the two parties, particularly the Democratic Party, seems most anxious, nervous about what we're doing because we're challenging the political status quo.
Listen, I know the game. I've played the game. I've been a part of the game. I've been played by the game. And the fact of the matter is the game wants to keep the status quo. They want to keep the power, regardless of the pragmatic circumstances on the ground. And we're challenging the status quo, and maybe by even challenging the status quo between now and Super Tuesday, we can have an impact on the two parties.
So Lieberman, obviously very much involved with no labels. We're just trying to fight back against the status quo the Democratic Party wants to protect so much. Now let me tell you who's funding this so-called war against the status quo, which of course is a lie. Let's go to graphic 5. Louis Bacon, billionaire CEO of hedge fund More Capital Management, gave $1 million each to No Labels and the Republican Party after donating the maximum allowable contribution to Kyrsten Sinema. Nelson Peltz, a major backer of former Republican President Donald Trump and a billionaire investor, gave $900,000 to 2 No Labels political action committees and also maxed out his donations to Sinema. And I'm sure they did all of that because they're against the status quo.
Oh yeah. And you know who else is against the status quo? Fortress Investment Group.
Totally.
They're like, you know what? We would love some radical change. We would love for populism, and we would love for the American people and the average worker to get more money and for us to get less money. Oh, the system that put us at the very, very top, oh, we hate it so much. Golly gee, we're against the status quo. I'm telling you, so look, last things about the media's sleight of hand. Anna's absolutely right. It's what they omit. And Noam Chomsky talks about this all the time. Quick example on that is this segment on CNN I often talk about, where they said, oh, this university did this study and it shows that Medicare for all costs $32 trillion. What they don't tell you is it was paid for by the Koch brothers, and they found out that it saves $34 trillion. So it would save you $2 trillion, but if you watch CNN, you thought it cost you $32 trillion. That's deception through omission. The other sleight of hand they do with guys like Manchin is, Manchin is from a red state like West Virginia, and that is why he voted against paid family leave, and he's moderate because he's a Democrat from a red state. Wait, you talked about the state as if that determines the policy position, but paid family leave is a very moderate position supported by 84% of Americans, but they do a little sleight of hand. And they pretend that paid family leave is radical and Joe Manchin is moderate, not because of the policy, but because of theoretically the state he's from. You see how the lies get into the system? Which then leads us to one other proof of concept here. Manchin is not the only one considering a third party race. You know, a lot of you know there's one other person who has announced that he is going to do a third party run, Cornel West. Is Cornel West called moderate? Is Cornel West ever given positive praise in the media? No, Cornel West is called by everyone in the media radical Cornel West, gonna destroy our democracy. That piece of great Cornel West, radical. But when Manchin's promising a third party candidacy, is the press calling him radical? Nope, they're still calling him moderate. How could he be moderate for a third party run and Cornel West is radical for a third party run? It's because you're not even bothering trying to be objective. Mainstream media is the initial cancer. All of the corruption, all of the money in politics goes to media to buy political ads. And then they come out and deceive the entire American people with a massively pro-corporate agenda pretending to be objective. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.